Good evening. I'm Rachel, and you're watching Prime America. Tonight, we are not opening with politics as usual. We are not opening with speculation, polling, or partisan talking points. We are opening with history unfolding in real time. Because as of this moment, on Saturday, March 29, 2026, the United States of America has effectively come to a standstill. From the towering skylines of New York City to the quiet farmlands of the Midwest. From the crowded streets of Los Angeles to the remote communities deep within Alaska's Arctic Circle, millions. Americans have stepped outside their homes and into the streets. What we are witnessing tonight is not just another protest. It is a nationwide awakening. This is now the third wave of what is being called the No Kings movement. And tonight, it has reached a scale that is unprecedented in modern American history. Organizers, municipal agencies, and law enforcement confirm that more than 3,100 separate demonstrations are actively taking place across the country. To understand the magnitude of that number, there are just over 3,100 counties in the United States. That means quite literally there are demonstrations happening in nearly every single county across all 50 states. Let that sink in. This is not concentrated outrage. This is not isolated dissent. This is total national mobilization. And it is not confined to one demographic. The images flooding into our newsroom tonight tell a story far more powerful than numbers ever could. These are not just activists. These are teachers, nurses, construction workers, parents pushing strollers, retirees holding handwritten signs, veterans standing shoulder to shoulder with students. Suburban neighborhoods once considered politically quiet are now filled with thousands marching in unity. This is not a movement on the margins. This is the mainstream of America rising up. Experts in crowd analysis are projecting that by nightfall, between 15 and 20 million Americans will have participated in today's demonstrations. If those numbers hold, this will become one of the largest mass mobilizations in the history of the United States, surpassing previous waves in both June and October of last year. But what makes today different is not just the size. It is the tone, the resolve, the clarity, the refusal to be ignored. Because the message from the streets is unmistakable, the American people are rejecting authoritarianism. They are rejecting what they see as a dangerous consolidation of power. And they are rejecting, in their words, the rise of a modern oligarch class that has placed wealth and influence above democracy itself. At the heart of this movement is a demand rooted in the founding principles of the American Republic. No kings, no unchecked rulers, no elite class above the law. But beyond that philosophical core, the demands are deeply human. People are marching for affordable health care. They are marching for the right to own a home. They are marching for a living wage. They are marching because, for millions, the basic promise of the American dream no longer feels real. And beneath these economic demands lies something even more explosive: anger. Raw, focused, relentless. Anger directed at what protesters describe as systemic corruption at the highest levels of power. Across cities tonight, thousands of signs carry a single recurring message: open the Epstein files. The public has not forgotten, and they are not willing to move on. Protesters are accusing the administration of shielding powerful individuals connected to high-profile sex trafficking networks. They are demanding accountability, not silence. They are demanding transparency, not protection. And they are calling for an independent special prosecutor to fully expose the truth, no matter how high it reaches. That anger has only intensified following controversial decisions surrounding the handling of convicted figures tied to these networks. To millions of Americans, this is not just a legal issue. It is a moral one. They believe the justice system is being manipulated to protect the powerful while ordinary citizens are held to a completely different standard. And while this domestic crisis unfolds, another storm is raging beyond U.S. borders, a rapidly escalating and deeply controversial war. The United States has entered a high-intensity military conflict alongside Israeli leadership against Iran, and the reports coming out of the region are nothing short of devastating. Independent observers and humanitarian groups are documenting large-scale airstrikes that have struck not only strategic targets, but civilian infrastructure, schools, residential areas, critical water facilities. In one reported incident, an airstrike resulted in the deaths of over 160 children. Let that number land. These are not abstract casualties. These are lives cut short in an instant. Desalination plants essential for clean drinking water have been destroyed. Electrical grids have collapsed. Entire regions have been plunged into darkness. Millions of civilians now face conditions that experts warn could become catastrophic. International observers are raising serious concerns, with some openly using the term war crimes. And the conflict is spreading, impacting civilian populations in Gaza, Beirut, and beyond. Back home, Americans are watching this unfold and asking a simple question: why are billions being spent on war, while life at home becomes increasingly unaffordable? Because here, on American soil, the economic pressure is relentless. Inflation continues to rise. Housing costs have surged beyond reach. Basic necessities, food, fuel, healthcare, are becoming harder to afford. For many families, survival has become a daily calculation. And then came a revelation that has ignited even more outrage: a nearly $1 billion transfer of taxpayer money to a foreign energy corporation. But this wasn't an investment in infrastructure. It wasn't funding for innovation. It was a payout to cancel clean energy projects. Two massive offshore wind initiatives capable of powering over 1 million homes were abandoned, not due to failure, not due to lack of demand, but because the government paid a corporation to walk away. And what happened next only deepened the fury. That same company redirected the funds into fossil fuel expansion oil drilling, gas exports, and carbon-heavy infrastructure. At a time when climate scientists are calling for urgent action, at a time when energy prices are unstable, the government used public money to dismantle renewable progress and double down on the realm. Past, state leaders have voiced outrage. Communities have demanded answers, but protesters say those voices have been ignored. And on the streets tonight, another issue is impossible to miss: the role of federal enforcement agencies. Protesters are calling for sweeping reforms to immigration and customs enforcement and border patrol. They are accusing these agencies of operating with excessive force, limited oversight, and tactics that violate constitutional protections. Stories shared by lawmakers include allegations of wrongful detention, lack of due process, and tragic deaths in custody. One case involved a pregnant woman detained and deported without the ability to contact her family. Another involved a constituent who died under unclear circumstances while in federal custody. These are not isolated claims. They are part of a broader demand: accountability, transparency, human dignity. Lawmakers pushing for reform are calling for basic measures: identification for agents, mandatory body cameras, judicial warrants for home entry. But those reforms remain stalled, caught in a political standoff. Meanwhile, tensions have escalated further due to a constitutional crisis brewing in Washington, a breakdown in the balance of power. After weeks of stalled negotiations over federal funding, essential workers, including TSA personnel, were left unpaid. Then, in a dramatic move, the president issued an executive order to bypass Congress and fund operations directly. Supporters call it decisive leadership. Critics called it dangerous because it raised a fundamental question: has the executive branch taken control of the nation's financial authority? The separation of powers, long considered a cornerstone of American democracy, is now at the center of this debate. And millions in the streets believe that line has been crossed. Adding fuel to the fire is the growing influence of ultra-wealthy individuals in politics, figures whose financial power rivals that of entire nations. Protesters argue that this is no longer just a political system. It is an economic hierarchy where billionaires shape policy, fund campaigns, and benefit from decisions that impact millions. The message from the streets is clear: no kings, no oligarchs, no unchecked power. And yet, as this crisis unfolds, the administration's response has raised even more questions. Instead of addressing the protests directly, official messaging is focused on strength, success, and global respect. In a statement released today, the president described the United States as the hottest country in the world, a phrase that has quickly become symbolic of what critics describe as a deep disconnect between leadership and reality. Because outside that statement, the reality looks very different. It looks like millions in the streets. It looks like families struggling to make ends meet. It looks like a nation searching for direction. And yet, despite the anger, despite the fear, despite the uncertainty. There is something else in the air tonight, something powerful, endurance. Because these millions of Americans are not marching in despair. They are marching with purpose, with determination, with the belief that their voices still matter. They are standing up for democracy, for equality, for accountability, for the future. And whether you agree with them or not, this moment cannot be ignored. Because history is not written in quiet rooms. It is written in moments like this, when ordinary people decide they've had enough. Tonight, the United States is not silent. It is speaking loudly, clearly, and all at once. And here at Prime America, we will continue to bring you the truth, the facts, and the voices from every corner of this unfolding story. Because this is not just news, this is a defining chapter in American history. I'm Rachel. Stay with us.